The story begins with a unique-looking girl named Dora. She narrates her rather tragic history of love, or what she calls her early romantic disasters. She says that when she was just 5 years old, she confessed her love for the very first time. The boy had smiled widely, clearly thrilled by her affection. Unfortunately, a few hours later, she discovered the minor detail that he was actually her cousin. That heartbreak was her first official lesson in genetic boundaries, and so she moved on. The second time she gathered the courage to confess her feelings to another boy, something magical happened. He liked her back. He even wrote her a note saying that he loved her too. But destiny clearly had a cruel sense of humor, because that very day he transferred to another school. 2 attempts, 2 disasters. Her confidence was sinking faster than a paper boat in a storm, and if that wasn't enough, she slowly realized that her hair was becoming curly like her father's, while her twin sisters remained effortlessly straight. By the way, she had also developed a crush on her new neighbor, a boy she admired from afar. She used to leave little gifts for him, hoping he'd notice. One day, when he arrived with a bouquet of flowers, Dora's heart nearly burst with joy, imagining they were for her. But fate struck again. The treacherous boy took all her gifts and gave the flowers to her twin sister, making her his girlfriend. He knew Dora liked him and still did that. From that day on, she swore she'd never confess her love again until she became truly beautiful. The story then shifts to the present day. Dora was standing in front of her mirror before school, desperately trying to straighten her stubborn curls. In her mind, her hair was the sole reason she wasn't beautiful. Her twin sister, with her glossy straight locks and excellent grades, was the family's pride, which didn't help Dora's case. She argued with her father about why her hair had to resemble his. "My life is ruined because of your genes," she shouted. "If my hair were straight, I'd be beautiful." Then she turned to her mother and begged, almost dramatically, to get her hair chemically straightened. Her mother sighed and said dryly that if Dora was so desperate, she might as well send her off to a salon forever and let her live there. That sarcasm finally made Dora quiet. A moment later, her friends called from outside. She stepped out, still fuming, and began complaining to all 3 of them about how miserable her curls made her life. Her friends tried to comfort her, assuring her that everything would be fine, that she looked lovely regardless. Just then, another boy arrived, the same one who always teased their group. Instantly, all 4 girls scattered like startled pigeons. Ironically, the boy secretly had a crush on one of Dora's friends, though his constant pestering didn't exactly make him charming. Outside the school gates, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Because the most popular boy in school, Juan, made his grand entrance. Half the girls practically melted at the sight of him. But to everyone's surprise, Juan waved at Dora. Her friends stared in shock. "Wait, how do you even know him?" Dora grinned shyly and said that she had met him the previous day at the beach. The story flashes back to that moment. Dora had been swimming when Juan emerged from the water like some drama commercial for expensive shampoo, tall, athletic, and devastatingly handsome. She had frozen in place, staring at him as if Poseidon himself had surfaced. He approached her, smiled, and said he hadn't known anyone else came to that spot. Dora stood there speechless, her brain temporarily disconnected from her mouth. Back in the present, her friends squealed with excitement. "He definitely went there on purpose. He must have a secret crush on you." Hearing that, Dora's face lit up. The idea thrilled her that maybe he really did like her, because truthfully, she had already started liking him. Soon after, the mock test results were announced, and the girls discovered that Juan's name was on the top list. That meant he qualified for Night Study Hall, a special session famous for a romantic legend that says anyone who confessed their love there was destined for success. Naturally, Dora wanted to do the same. The only problem is that she wasn't good at studying. And to get into the Night Study Hall, she'd have to score high marks first. After the first half of the school, Juan is playing, surrounded by a screaming fan club of girls cheering his every move. Dora couldn't take her eyes off him either, but grumbled under her breath about how all those other girls were shamelessly drooling over her Juan. Later, she went to buy a sports drink for him and politely asked the vendor to give it to Juan. The woman behind the counter laughed, saying that half the school had already left drinks for him. She said, "Sweetheart, you might need more than a beverage to win that boy's heart." Dora walked away sulking, feeling utterly defeated. But as she stepped outside, she ran into another girl, the one with the same curly hair as hers. They bonded immediately, exchanging tragic hair care advice like two survivors of a natural disaster. Dora also learned that this new girl liked One too. Later that evening, Dora returned to the beach, waiting eagerly for One to appear. She imagined their conversation in her head, rehearsing how she'd smile, how she'd speak. Then she went swimming to calm her nerves. But instead of One, someone entirely unexpected showed up, a boy named Myung. He had come to the beach simply to pass time. While walking, he noticed Dora's name badge lying near the water just as a gust of wind lifted her uniform top into the air. Trying to catch it, he slipped and fell straight into the sea. When Dora noticed someone drowning, she swam over instantly and dragged him out, saving him just in time. She was about to give him CPR when he suddenly sat up, coughing. Furious, she scolded him for going into the water without knowing how to swim. Then, noticing her soaked uniform floating nearby, she gasped and rushed back to retrieve it. The next day at school, the teacher introduced a new transfer student from Seoul, and to Dora's astonishment, it was Myung, the same boy she had rescued. Because of his leg injury from the fall, he walked with a slight limp. Dora smiled and said they were meeting again. He nodded, smiling back, and said, "I suppose this time I'll try to stay out of the water." Dora laughed softly and returned to her seat, whispering the entire story to her friends to tell them how she already knew the new student. Then, the rain began pouring outside. Students rushed for cover. Myung struggled to hold his umbrella with his injured leg, so Dora ran over to help him. But before she could say much, their teacher spotted them and stopped them both. Dora, flustered and dripping wet, blurted out the first thing that came to mind, that she hadn't straightened her hair. It was just the rain's fault it looked this way. The teacher looks at Dora with a half-annoyed, half-amused expression and tells her that the only reason he stopped her was because her name badge was missing. Dora awkwardly explains that she has no idea where it went. Perhaps she lost it somewhere. The teacher sighs and warns her to find it as soon as possible, telling that if she didn't, he'd make her hair even curlier as punishment. He then turns to Dora's friend and scolds him too, saying that all he ever did was grin at girls instead of helping his classmates. The friend's smile disappears faster than a Wi-Fi signal in the rain. During the recess break, Myung struggles to get lunch from the cafeteria because of his injured leg. Feeling bad for him, Dora brings him a meal and places it on his table. He thanks her politely. That's when Dora's friend, who can't resist gossip, asks if it's true that she saved his life. Before Myung can respond, Dora proudly interrupts, dramatically recounting the entire story herself, how he nearly drowned and how, thanks to her, he's now alive and well. Her friends laugh and say that in that case, he should buy everyone ice cream as a thank you. The scene cuts to the whole group sitting together, happily eating ice cream. Between bites, Dora's friends ask if she's found her missing name badge yet. None of them knew that the badge was actually with Myung. It had accidentally ended up in his hand on the day of the beach incident. He had come prepared to return it, but then overheard something that changed his mind. Dora's friends were giggling nearby, saying that if a boy kept a girl's badge with him, it meant he liked her. Hearing that, Myung quietly slipped the badge back into his pocket. He decided to keep it. Whether he admitted it or not, he clearly had feelings for her. Meanwhile, Dora was telling her friends that she didn't want any random boy's affection, she only wanted one. And as if destiny were listening in with wicked timing, a basketball came flying out of nowhere and smacked her right in the shoulder. It was, of course, thrown by none other than One himself, by accident, though Dora immediately froze, staring at him as though the heavens had chosen her. One rushed over to apologize, asking if she was okay. Dora nodded, barely able to speak. He apologized again and jogged away. Her friends ran to her, squealing with excitement, insisting that he must have done it on purpose. "He totally likes you," they said. Dora's cheeks turned pink, her imagination running wild. Myung, watching from a distance, looked anything but amused. Later, Dora was in class when her friends burst in, saying they had something big to show her. She followed them curiously. Inside the class, they pointed to a girl whose hair, which used to be as curly as Dora's, was now sleek and perfectly straight. The girl proudly announced that she had gotten it done at a salon for 200,000 yen and even gave them the address. Dora immediately rushed to see the salon for herself, excitement gleaming in her eyes. The owner greeted her warmly, commenting that her curls were quite intense, but assuring her she could straighten them beautifully. Dora almost squealed with joy. At home, however, she counted her savings and realized she didn't have enough money. The disappointment hit hard. A few days later, while walking past the same salon, she noticed something surprising. The owner's son was none other than Myung. A plan hatched instantly. The next day, she intentionally bumped into him outside the salon, pretending it was a coincidence. With an overly polite smile, she followed him inside and introduced herself to his mother, saying she was Myung's classmate. The woman was pleasantly surprised, admitting that this was the first time her son had ever brought a friend home. During their conversation, Dora casually mentioned that Myung had almost drowned and that she was the one who saved him. The mother was shocked because her son never told her anything. Dora went on to explain how she'd been helping him since his injury. Deeply touched, Myung's mother thanked her and said that if Dora promised to take care of him at school until his leg healed, she would straighten Dora's hair for free. Dora almost fell off her chair. She had come hoping for a small discount, but now she was getting the deal of her dreams, completely free. She eagerly agreed, practically glowing with excitement. Now Dora's only mission is to be on Myung's side, carrying his bag, handing out salon flyers for his mother's business, and making sure he never struggles with anything. Myung tried to protest, telling her she didn't need to do all that, but she refused to listen. Then one day, she spotted Won walking nearby and immediately ducked behind Myung to hide. She whispered that she wouldn't let him see her until her hair was perfectly straight. Rain started pouring outside and both of them ended up completely drenched. Dora invited Myung to her father's comic store to dry off. She told him to pick any comic book he liked and start reading. When he confessed that he'd never read a comic in his life, Dora stared at him in disbelief as if he'd admitted to never breathing air. She handed him a stack of her favorites and even shared the secret passcode to the shop so he could come by any time. That evening, Myung went home smiling for the first time in ages, staring repeatedly at the passcode she'd given him. The next day, Dora excitedly tells her friends that she's finally going to confess to Won. For that, they'd need to fold paper crane eggs, a romantic tradition symbolizing good luck and love. She said that the last girl who confessed made 10,000 of them, so they had to make even more. Myung, quietly trying to leave, is stopped by Dora, who reminds him that she once saved his life, meaning he owes her help. He sighs, but agrees to stay and assist. Soon, everyone in class is secretly folding colorful paper cranes, though Myung works the hardest, staying up late and even folding them during lectures. By the end, while the others had made a few dozen, Myung had prepared hundreds for Dora. Later, Dora is seen pleading with the class monitor to lend her his seat in the night study hall for one day just so she could confess her feelings to Won there. The class monitor's words cut through the air like a knife. He told Dora bluntly that Won would never like her and that she should take a good look at where he stood and where she stood. The difference, according to him, was a whole universe apart. The comment shattered her. She tried to keep her expression neutral, but the moment she turned away, her face fell. What she didn't realize was that Myung, sitting behind her, had overheard everything. As Dora walked home that evening, her steps were slow, her eyes dim. The class monitor's words echoed in her head again and again. When Myung reached her place to return her father's t-shirt, he saw the sadness on her face and said nothing, just handed it to her quietly. That small gesture was enough to make her break down completely. She started crying uncontrollably. All she could think about was somehow getting into the night study hall, the one place where she believed her dream could still come true. She ran off in tears, leaving Myung standing helplessly behind. The next day, exam week began. Myung came to class late, limping slightly, but surprisingly, he was the first to finish his paper. After school, Dora sat at her father's bookstore, whispering silent prayers that she might somehow get a seat in the night study hall. In frustration, she muttered to her hair, asking why it refused to behave. Then she promised herself that once her hair was straight, she'd finally confess her love to Won. Myung, who was already there, asked her gently why she wanted to straighten her hair so badly. She sighed and said it was because her curls made her look unattractive. He smiled faintly and said that she didn't need to change anything, that she was already beautiful the way she was. Dora looked at him, speechless. It was the first time anyone had ever said something like that to her. Then she noticed something else. He had single-handedly completed all the paper crane eggs they'd been folding together. She was overjoyed, telling him those cranes represented all their shared memories and effort. For a moment, she forgot all her worries. The next morning, Dora found out that Myung's cast had finally been removed. She was thrilled because that meant his mother could now fulfill her promise and straighten her hair. Myung's mother even smiled and said, "Come on, let's do it today." But Dora refused politely, saying she needed to prepare something first. When they arrived at school later, everyone was stunned to learn that Myung had topped the entire grade. His name stood proudly at the top of the list. He told Dora softly that he had done it for her because she wanted a spot in the night study hall. Dora's eyes widened in disbelief and joy. "You did all this for me." He nodded, smiling quietly. But that happiness didn't last long. Within moments, she received heartbreaking news because Myung had taken one of the top positions and one's name had been pushed off the list. Dora's world collapsed again. She sat silently with her friends, devastated, not knowing whether to be angry or sad. Part of her was upset with Myung for unintentionally ruining her plan. Later, while helping her mother, she overheard two women gossiping nearby. They were talking about the lady who ran the salon, Myung's mother. One woman said she had heard that Myung's father was a wealthy and respected doctor, but had been abusive, which was why Myung and his mother had escaped and were hiding here. She added that Myung's aunt lived in America and wanted them to move there, but they hadn't gone yet. The gossip continued apparently. Myung had been so affected by his family's troubles that he had stopped attending school for a while. Dora stood frozen, absorbing every word. Suddenly, all his quietness, his hesitation, his loneliness, it all made sense. Her heart softened instantly. That evening, when she reached her father's bookstore, she found both her dad and Myung inside. Her father had invited him to stay for noodles. As the food cooked, Dora sat beside Myung, speaking softly. She apologized for being upset with him earlier. He just smiled and said it was fine. A few days later, a colorful school trip poster on the notice board caught Dora's eye. That's when she got an idea, a brilliant, hopelessly romantic idea. She would confess to Won on the trip. Her friends loved the plan. They giggled and teased her endlessly as she blushed, especially when Won passed by, waved at her, and walked away. Her face turned bright red, and her friends didn't let her hear the end of it. Soon after, she met her friend, the one who had gotten her hair straightened. The girl was showing off a beautiful snow globe that her grandmother had sent from America. Dora was mesmerized by it and touched it gently, admiring how the flakes floated inside. But the girl immediately pulled it away, proudly saying it was a special gift from her grandmother and flaunting it before strutting off. Myung noticed all this quietly. He saw how much Dora had liked the snow globe and filed that little detail in his heart. The next day, the entire school assembled on the field for a game between classes. One's class was playing too, and that same proud girl had teamed up with him. The sight alone made Dora's stomach twist with jealousy. When Myung asked which team she wanted to join, she quickly said his. The game began, a dodgeball match where teammates had to protect each other from being hit. Everything was going smoothly until only 4 players remained, Dora and Myung on one side, Won, and his teammate on the other. Myung was just about to throw the ball and eliminate Won's partner, but Dora impulsively jumped in front to protect Won instead. The entire crowd gasped in disbelief. She had effectively betrayed her own team just to save her crush. Myung stood frozen for a moment, then quietly dropped the ball and walked away, hurt and humiliated. Later at night, Dora with swollen eyes was sitting by herself, wondering how to apologize to Myung. Her heart ached with guilt. Then her phone buzzed. It was a voice message from Won, thanking her for helping him win the game. Dora's face instantly lit up again, her heart fluttering. But moments later, another message arrived, this time from Myung. His voice was soft, filled with concern. He said he was sorry for leaving so suddenly, that he shouldn't have gone, and that she should please take care of her eyes and apply medicine for the swelling. Dora froze, holding her phone close. She realized that while one boy thanked her for convenience, the other cared for her without expecting anything. That night, in a dreamlike flashback, Myung was seen underwater again, drowning just like the first time they met. Only this time, Dora dove in to save him. When he woke up gasping, he whispered to himself, half in shock, half in revelation, that he still hadn't truly realized just how much he liked her. The next day at school, Everyone was hanging out together when Myung pulled out his camera to take group photos of their little gang. While clicking, he overheard them excitedly talking about how Dora was planning to confess her love to Won during the upcoming school trip. That realization hit him like a quiet heartbreak. He forced a smile, slipped the camera into his bag, and walked away, pretending to check his phone, but inside, his chest felt heavy. Dora noticed the sudden change in his mood, though she said nothing. The next day, the school was holding a photo shoot for all students. Dora and Myung ended up standing side by side for a few shots. As the photographer prepared to click, Dora began fidgeting nervously, trying to hide her curly hair. She whispered under her breath, wondering how to make it look better. Myung smiled and told her to leave it as it was, because he genuinely liked her hair that way. Dora turned to him, surprised once again. Somewhere deep inside, she was beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, he liked her. Now Dora finally arrives to get her hair straightened. Myung's mother was busy, so she asked her son to wash Dora's hair for her. The poor boy froze for a moment, then nervously agreed. As he gently washed her hair, both of them sat in complete silence, their hearts pounding faster than the salon's blow dryers. Finally, the long-awaited school trip day has arrived. On the bus, the teacher was annoyed, asking why Dora was still missing. Someone joked that she was probably still at the salon, getting her hair straightened, and then the chaos began. Someone shouted that Dora had arrived, and everyone rushed to the windows. The entire bus went silent in awe. Dora stepped in, her hair now long, shiny, and perfectly straight. The transformation was so stunning that even her closest friends' jaws dropped. Compliments flew from every corner as she looked like a movie star. Dora smiled proudly, flicked her hair with playful style, and took her seat. The teacher, rolling his eyes, muttered that students these days cared more about fashion than homework. Myung, however, remained quiet, expressionless, staring out the window. Later, they reached their destination and spent the day having fun. Everyone clicked pictures, laughed, and played games. The girls surrounded Won, begging for selfies with him. Eventually, the whole group gathered for a big photo together. That night, the long-awaited moment arrived. Dora and her friends finished decorating the area for her confession. Fairy lights glowed softly, and everything looked straight out of a teenage dream. Myung, sitting in the corner, looked quietly heartbroken. Dora's friend went to bring Won over. As he walked toward the decorated spot, he immediately understood what was happening, that Dora was going to confess. A small smile appeared on his face. Dora stood there, nervous but glowing. This was the moment she'd imagined countless times, yet for some reason, her heart felt oddly heavy. Myung, unable to bear it any longer, turned and walked away into the dark. Dora noticed him leaving, but stayed still. One smiled warmly and thanked her for the paper crane eggs and for preparing such a beautiful surprise. He complimented her new look and teased that she was making him nervous by staying silent. Taking a deep breath, Dora began speaking. She said that she had liked him for a long time and had waited eagerly for this day, but now that she was standing in front of him, she couldn't say what she'd planned, because someone else kept appearing in her mind instead. One went quiet, his smile fading slightly. Her friends, who were hiding nearby, whispered in confusion, trying to figure out what was happening. Dora continued softly, explaining that she no longer liked him the way she once did. There was someone else who made her feel comfortable, someone around whom she never had to pretend or change herself, someone who truly cared. One was taken aback, but after a moment, he smiled kindly and said that whoever this person was, he must be very lucky because Dora was a wonderful girl. At last, Dora knew her own heart. It wasn't Won, it was Myung. The next day, Dora walks out of the hotel where the trip was hosted, and her friends swarm her, bombarding her with questions about what happened. She simply smiles and says nothing. On the way back, she sits quietly on the bus. Through the window, Won waved goodbye to her. When Myung sees that, his expression darkens. He assumes Dora and Won are now together. Hurt and disappointed, he says nothing and sits in silence. Dora immediately realizes he's misunderstood. Later, when they're at her father's bookstore, she explains that she didn't make Won her boyfriend because she just wanted to focus on her studies for now. Hearing that, Myung's entire face lights up with relief and joy. A few days later, Dora spots Myung talking to another girl in the school hallway. Her stomach twists in jealousy before she even knows why. That night, she couldn't help asking him about it. He laughs and explains that the girl was just an old classmate from his previous school. Dora blushes, embarrassed, and the air between them clears. The next morning, before Dora's exam, Myung shows up dressed in a giant teddy bear costume, trying to cheer her up. Because apparently, romance and embarrassment go hand in hand. He even brings her a snow globe, the very same one she'd admired earlier. The gesture melts her heart. She hugs it tightly, smiling ear to ear. She takes her exam peacefully that day, performing well. But back home, she keeps staring at the snow globe, lost in thoughts of Myung, replaying every moment with him. The following evening, as the group of friends walked home together, Dora suddenly said she had something to do and hurried off. Myung quickly followed, saying he had work too. Their friends exchanged looks as they knew something was up. Curious, they quietly followed them and were shocked to see the two walking together, laughing and talking like they were already a couple. Their suspicions were right. Dora and Myung had finally admitted what everyone else could already see. They went to the beach, where Myung gently handed Dora her lost name badge. He confessed that he had kept it because he liked her from the very beginning. Dora smiled brightly, of course. She liked him too. They spent the entire day together, walking along the shore and talking endlessly. That night, as they stood outside her house, both of them blushing, Dora leaned closer. And after a long, shy pause, they kissed. Myung smiled, whispered goodbye, and slowly walked away, leaving Dora standing there, still smiling at the memory of everything they'd been through. When Dora got home that evening, she was glowing. Her mind couldn't stop replaying every second she'd spent with Myung. She kept smiling for no reason, pacing around the room like someone freshly hit by Cupid's baseball bat. Meanwhile, Myung was equally happy. But when he reached home, he sensed something was off. His mother looked pale and distracted. When he asked what happened, she brushed it off, saying she had to leave early in the morning to pick up a new product from the market. Concerned, Myung offered to come with her, but she firmly refused, assuring him it was nothing. The next day, Dora called her friends, practically buzzing with excitement. She told them to prepare everything at the beach because she was planning the perfect confession for Myung. Her friends, thrilled and supportive, agreed immediately and began arranging the decorations. Later, Dora arrived at the beach with Myung. She was nervous, smiling, and secretly hoping this would be the day he'd realize how much she loved him. But just as she was about to confess, Myung's pager buzzed, and when he called the number, his face turned pale as he listened. It was from Seoul Hospital because his mother had been admitted in critical condition. He quickly explained everything to Dora, apologized, and left in a rush. Dora stood there, the wind blowing through her still straight hair, watching him disappear down the road. Myung bursts into the hospital, only to find his mother bruised and trembling on the bed. His father stood nearby, arrogantly claiming she had just fallen down the stairs. But when he threatened his son, saying that if he wanted his mother to survive, he'd better return home quietly, the truth became undeniable. Myung could barely hold back his tears as his father walked out. He knelt beside his mother, crying helplessly. Back in her town, Dora learned from her friends that Myung's mother's salon was being sold. Alarmed, she realized something was terribly wrong. Without a second thought, she emptied all her savings and took the first bus to Seoul. When she arrived at the hospital, she saw Myung standing tense, talking to his father, who soon stormed away. She quietly followed him inside, hiding near the doorway. Inside, Myung was talking softly to his mother, saying that her sister in America had invited them to come live there, away from his father's cruelty. But he confessed through tears that he didn't want to leave because he couldn't bear the thought of being far from Dora. Dora's eyes filled with tears as she listened. She slipped outside, pulled out her phone, and began recording a message. Her voice trembled as she said she missed him terribly and didn't know how to live without him. But after a pause, she deleted it. Taking a deep breath, she recorded another message, this time colder, forced. She said that she didn't love him anymore, that she only saw him as a friend, and that whatever they had was probably just an illusion. She asked him to move on and stay away from her life. Then she pressed send and walked away, her eyes brimming. At the hospital, Myung listened to the message. His face fell. Every word cut him deeply. He didn't know it was a lie. He didn't know she was trying to protect him. Days passed, then weeks, and soon it was graduation day. The school courtyard was full of cheers and photos. Everyone was celebrating new beginnings. Dora stood quietly, holding an old picture of herself and Myung together, smiling faintly through watery eyes. Later, when she stopped by her father's bookstore, she noticed something lying on the counter, Myung's old diary. She hesitated, then opened it. Her hands began to shake. Every page was filled with photos of her, the ones he'd secretly taken, each carefully glued and captioned. Under every picture, he had written little notes about her, how she smiled, what foods she liked, what made her angry, what jokes made her laugh. And one line that broke her completely, that he had written that he had learned to live by watching her be happy. Dora sat there, tears streaming down her face. She realized how deeply he had loved her from the very beginning and how much she'd lost. Time passed, and life moved forward. Dora was now in college, majoring in sports science, working hard to build a career in swimming. One day, while hanging out with her old friends, she learned that two of them had become a couple. They excitedly told her that they'd arranged a blind date for her the next evening. Dora laughed nervously, refusing at first. But then even the restaurant owner joined in, giving her an unsolicited lecture on love, saying that a girl who swims can also drown in romance. After that wise prophecy, she reluctantly agreed. The next day, she sat at the cafe waiting for her blind date. Minutes turned into hours, but no one showed up. She didn't care anyways and got up to leave, wandering outside aimlessly. By sheer coincidence, she ended up near the same spot where she'd last seen Myung. Her chest ached with memory. Just then, she heard a familiar voice calling her name. She froze. Slowly turning around, she saw him, Myung, standing right there, smiling softly. He had returned from America. Before she could stop herself, she ran to him and threw her arms around him. Tears rolled down as she said that she had lied that night, that she never wanted to break up, that she missed him every single day, and that she couldn't live being apart. Myung held her close and whispered that he already knew. He had received both her messages that night, the deleted one too, and he knew she had come to Seoul to see him. He then handed her a box filled with new paper crane eggs he had made and asked her quietly, "Would you stay with me forever? First as my girlfriend and then, maybe, as my wife." Dora's answer was an instant, tearful yes. Just then, their friends appeared from behind a wall, cheering and laughing, thrilled to see the two of them reunited. The story ends where it all began in the comic book store. Only this time, they're not shy strangers, but a loving couple. Both successful, both happy, both teasing each other like children. And as they laugh together, the camera slowly pans out, the sound of waves in the distance blending with soft music, closing on their forever, sealed in the quiet warmth of love.